Hey everyone, I'm Marleen. I got a special guest with me here at Radio Regenbogen today. George Ezra is with me and we're going to talk about his new record, Gold Rush Kid. So, good morning, George.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, really well, yeah.
How's Germany been treating you so far?
It's been amazing. It's been our first... We've done a few trips to different countries on this album, but obviously they've all been different, or certainly different to how we remember them. And this one has been the longest of all the trips. So we landed and we've been, it feels like everywhere. Yeah, it's been brilliant.
Well, we're glad you get to travel again and get to be with us today. Yeah. So, Gold Rush Kid, your new record. I mean, I can't get over that cool jeans jacket you got. But most importantly, it's the title of your new record that will be released in June. And I was wondering, is the Gold Rush Kid sitting right across from me right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think like it was, when you're naming, or certainly when I'm naming an album, I don't know what to call the album until I do. You know, so what am I going to call it? What am I going to go? Oh yeah, that's the title. I don't know, how much can I talk about it?
You can talk about it. We're only going to release it in June.
Okay, cool.
So you can go ahead.
Okay.
I've listened to the record, so...
Have you heard it?
Yes, I have.
Like it?
Yeah, I do.
Amazing.
We're going to talk about a lot of tracks.
Okay, very cool. I'm happy you've heard it. That's exciting because... That's really exciting because obviously it's not officially out yet, but I like that people are hearing it. I think at the end of the last album, I kind of came home and had found the whole experience quite overwhelming. And I kind of let it or made it take over my life. Like I'd chosen to do that. And so when I think about, or when I was thinking about touring and promoting, it was a negative thing in my head because I associated it with a lot of stress and discomfort in myself. And then obviously there was this lockdown. And I was living alone for 5 weeks or so. And you start to think about the things that you have in your life, the people in your life, and what you do. And I realized I love this thing. And I always have. Since a very young age, I have loved music. And it's very, I guess, unique that my experience with it became what it became. It like took over everything I did. But really at the heart of it is this thing that I love. And as a result of touring and promoting, I've seen places, met people, done things I never thought I would do. And I feel very lucky to be able to do that. And so that's how I want to treat this album, like a gold rush. Know that it won't last forever, but just enjoy it while it's here for its experiences. Yeah.
How do you stay present in these experiences?
I think I find it easy to remind myself that this isn't normal. That they are unique experiences, I think. And maybe I'm not always completely present. But I guess check in with myself and remind myself, you know, even if it's a tiring day, it's still a pretty cool day. And even if I get annoyed, I'm annoyed at quite a cool thing. You know, it's like, I think that's the truth, yeah.
Yeah, well, high standards, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess, checking in is important. And you mentioned the track Gold Rush Kid, and the lyrics go, "There is no love like coming home, but to come home I've got to go." So traveling has been a huge part of creating your music before, right? But the journey to create this record has been a bit different.
Yeah, because for the first and second album, they were tied to very specific journeys. So the first album I travelled around Europe by trains. The second album I went and stayed in Barcelona and just kept journals, you know, and would write down sometimes full pages of everything I'd done that day. Sometimes little notes, lyric ideas, people I'd met. And then I would let those notes inspire the album and the songs. yeah, and then obviously, again, the thing is, I can't talk about this album without talking about the lockdown. But that was a huge part of it.
That's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, but then, even though it's good to reference the lockdown, my album, to me, feels very separate to the lockdown, you know?
Because you got these ideas before the lockdown started, or how would you describe that separateness?
Yeah, I think that's one part of it. I was able to go through old journals that I had never thought I would read back through. And then on the other hand, I was able to do a lot of reflecting over everything we've done over the last 10 years. It's been 10 years now. And so I was having kind of thoughts and conversations with myself that actually took me back to years ago and things I had done and how I felt about those things, which felt separate to the lockdown, yeah.
Oh, I hear you. And one song on the record is called Green Green Grass, which is your current single. And it doesn't sound like lockdown to me at all, because it's such a uplifting and fun tune. And there is a line that goes, "You better throw a party on the day that I die." And that's not just a figure of speech, right? That's something that you literally witnessed.
Yeah, so that was one of the songs where I was going back through these old journals, and there was this one story and one note from a trip where I'd gone to the Caribbean with two of my close friends, and we were sat at this beach bar, and honestly, the guys that worked in the beach bar, they were about as close as me and you are, and the bar just surrounded them. It was tiny. And they had rum punch that they had made, homemade rum punch, which was lethal. It was really strong. And then beer, and me and my friends were drinking, and we were getting to know the guys in the bar. And then this really loud music started, really loud music. And I had to go and see what it was, you know? So I left, and I was kind of making my way down these streets, and I ended up on the high street, and there was people cooking out. They were dancing, hugging, celebrating. It was a real party up and down the street. And so I asked these girls that worked in this shop, what are we celebrating? And they said it was a funeral day. So they were celebrating 3 lives that they had lost in the community. And they invited me to join the party. And it made the whole thing even more beautiful. It was unlike anything I had seen. And I'd kind of forgotten, I remembered that experience, but I had forgotten ever taking a note of it. And when I read back through the journal, it just said, "Green, green grass, blue, blue sky. You better throw a party on the day that I die." Yeah.
What did that feel like for you?
Being there.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming. And it felt like one of those experiences that can only happen when you travel. Like it was completely new as an experience, and it's rare that really new experiences happen at home, I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
And it's such a different way of dealing with death than we are used to over here, right? Do you ever confront yourself with the idea that this is all going to end someday?
I do. I don't come to any conclusions, really. I think at times, like, there was points whilst writing the album where I felt so comfortable with myself and so at ease that I kind of became a lot more comfortable with the idea of death as well. But for the most part, it's quite a scary prospect, I would say. It's just hard to get your head round. And I think it's... we like to know the answer to things. Like, whether we like the answer or not, we'd still like to know what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Uncertainty is not one of my strongest traits either.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know what you're talking about. But onto a more high vibe thing as well. Anyone for You.
Yeah.
I mean, what a high vibe tune. I love the euphoria that it's got. It's great. And did you need these high vibe tunes for yourself as well?
I think it's not that I needed them specifically because of the lockdown. I always need them, and I always write them. Like, it's just, especially this far into our career, or my career, it's like we play big festivals and we play fun sets. There's a lot of hands in the air, singing along, dancing. It feels like people are free at our shows. That's kind of how I've known live music for the last 10 years or so, and now it comes very naturally. I think it's also it's like a part of my personality. Yeah. Is
there like a strategic songwriting part with it as well? When you like talk about concerts, hands in the air, is it like, okay, I need another one that's like, let's go? It's
not like we need another one. It's more, I want to have songs to play in that setting, and that setting won't be there forever, you know, but it is now. So enjoy it. And also when you're writing and you imagine, God, this is the bit where people might sing along. This is why it's exciting that you've heard the album, because as far as I'm aware, not many people have. And so, yeah, that's an example of the fact that people will hear the songs, and I guess they'll have their own relationships with them in some way.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
And I will keep like picking parts of the lyrics out of the songs that we're going to talk about. And so, you know, I listened to the record. I was a lucky girl, but the track list was still confidential, so I had to get my inner Sherlock Holmes on.
Yeah.
And I managed to get it, because you showed it on Instagram.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Did you screen grab it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I received it.
Yeah.
But the work was done. So there's not only the dance tunes on the record. There's a calmer side to it as well, I'd say. And there was track 5, Fell in Love at the End of the World. And it's got this cinematic feel to it, I'd say. I love the line, if we make it out alive, won't you be my ride or die? Well, talking about death again. Can we take the at the end of the world part literally?
When I first wrote that lyric, that was another one of the lyrics that I found in a notebook from maybe 2019, 2018. It felt a lot more real when we were then writing the album. Yeah.
Okay. There's another one, which is such a beautiful piano ballad, Sweetest Human Being Alive. And the lyrics are, when I meet you, girl, I know I will hold you and I will know I am home. And it's so positive. And at the same time, I can sense this deep yearning of belonging and togetherness. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, I think that again came from these 5 weeks in the lockdown. And I think that because I was alone for those first 5 weeks, and so you miss family, you miss friends, and you have time to think. And so there was this longing, and I was playing guitar every day and singing on the sofa. And one night I just said, just make it as simple as you can. Just say something really simply. Don't try and overcomplicate it. Just sing a feeling. And that was where the lyrics for this song came from. And we tried to produce it. Like, we got an upright bass, a piano, guitar, some backing vocals, and it was too complicated. And so in the studio, we just stripped it down to piano and vocal, and it was it's magic. I really love that song.
Yeah, I think you can totally feel everything you went through at that time. And that might be another lockdown track that I picked now. sorry.
I know, well, I started this saying it's not linked to lockdown. It is, isn't it? Because it was what we all did for so long.
Yeah, I know.
And that's where this album's come from.
We are all caught up in this challenging times, I like to call them. But Love Somebody Else. And you're singing, is there anybody out there in the silence? Give me a sign, let me know that you're there. Can anybody hear me crying, giving up on myself? Was there a certain chapter or experience that brought that one to life?
I think going back to that, being very frustrated and I guess lost after that last record, I did kind of feel, well, I wanted to say, fuck this. I don't know if I can say that, but I was just over, I was frustrated. And it almost felt like the only option I had was to throw everything out, throw everything away, and start again. And ultimately, that was the best thing to do. I feel far calmer as a result. But yeah, there was that moment of, well, I don't know what to do with myself here.
So what do you mean by throwing everything out?
I think I had started relying on this way of thinking about myself and the world, which was really confused. You know, I had an idea of who I was and an idea of what the world was, and it was really negative. But I had put so many bricks on the wall, as it were, that it was even more confusing. And so I just had to try, and like through conversations with myself, conversations with friends and family, a lot of thinking, but kind of remind myself that it's not necessarily true, the way I was thinking.
Yeah, don't believe everything that plops up in your head, right? Exactly. I know, it's hard sometimes, though. And the last track on the record, The Sun Went Down, it feels like this full circle moment somehow, like the proper end of the journey of those 12 songs to me. And there's a line that says, "I'm so happy I could die." I don't know why I keep picking the death things. But
well, also what's interesting is that's another one of the songs that came from that first 5 weeks.
Oh, of course.
But a lot of the album didn't. But yeah, that was like, again, that kind of... Sorry, I've just jumped in.
You go ahead.
I was in this flat apartment for 5 weeks. And in the UK, at some point in those 5 weeks, we experienced a real heat wave. But I had no balcony and no garden. So I just pulled a chair into the window. And I was doing, some of those weeks, I would do it 24 hours, just try and be silent and no screens. So I was just making myself wake up and just think. And that was one of those days I started playing the guitar and trying to come up with a new picking style for me. And so that's, the guitar opens with that. And I found it really difficult. So I just sat for that day playing that guitar part, playing that guitar part, playing that guitar part. And then I told myself that I wasn't allowed to speak. So I was humming, because I like rules. And so I started humming melodies over it. And it became like a meditation, because it was so repetitive. I was just doing it and doing it and doing it. And then the next day, I wrote 3 different melody ideas and 3 different lyric ideas that were really simple and repetitive. So the song opens with down, 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 the sun went down, 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 the sun went down, like it's a mantra or something. Just repeat, repeat, repeat. And then I wrote 2 more. One of them I didn't use, and the other was the I Could Die Now. But they were, all 3 of them, very like warm feelings. And it felt, I was confident when I finished that song. I was like, that's going to end the album. And I didn't even record it until the very end, because I knew how I wanted it to sound. I didn't need to stress about it.
Yeah. Like what instances make you feel like stating, "I'm so happy I could die now"?
I think just being content. It was that feeling. I guess that will have been the pinpoint in the map where like there was a change in my thinking. Like over those days, it had been building up to that point, and something clicked.
Well, I'm glad you got to turn around.
Thank you.
And now we talked a lot about the lockdown pandemic stuff, but I read in your bio that you did this massive hiking trip in 2021 as well. Like, can you let us in on what crazy route you took?
Yeah. Yeah, so like in the past, I've taken these journeys for the albums, and the plan was in 2020, me and two of my friends would walk from Land's End to Cornwall, Land's End to John O'Groat, sorry, so Cornwall to Scotland. And the idea was that we would go, they're both filmmakers, so they would document the journey, and I would write songs as we went. And the journey is 1,200 miles. It's epic. But then obviously in 2020, we couldn't do that. But then the idea had snowballed. So at first it was just going to be that they were going to film it so we could share it with fans when the album came out. And then by the time we went to leave, there was a production team, directors, investors, and we were making an independent movie. The other problem was I'd already written the album by this point. So then we changed the pitch so that we would visit other musicians as we went. And so, yeah, the journey took 90 days, or 95 days, and we camped for 80 of them. And we would walk between 20 and 30 miles a day. And it was the best thing I've ever done.
What was a favorite part of the whole experience for you?
Honestly, day to day, it was extremely hard. And so if you zoomed in on a specific day, we'd probably be sat there just, grumpy. But then each night we would light a fire, we'd play guitar, we'd have some beers, we'd cook on the fire. It was heaven. It was amazing. And then each day, like, our alarms would go off at about 5 a.m. and we'd get up and just join the trail. And yeah, it was incredible.
Do you need to challenge yourself in these kind of ways?
Yeah. Not the physical challenge, it's more the mental challenge, I think, is what appeals to me. And also once I've had the idea, I'm like, well, physically you could do that. And now I'm in this fortunate position where, because I don't have a 9 to 5, something like that, we'll now work for 18 months doing our thing, but then on the other side of that, we can take this time to go and explore. And it almost feels like I owe it to myself to do those things.
Just to get something for yourself, maybe, that you can...
Yeah. And what an opportunity. Yeah. It was just incredible.
No, I think that's great if you have great stretches of time to just use them and go ahead with that. And I read that the walk was soundtracked by the album somehow, because you got the mixes back and you could listen to them. Yeah. Like, how would you picture your fans diving into the new songs? Is there this perfect scenario for the new songs that you could imagine them?
Yeah, do you know what? In the past, I've always said driving, put albums on in the car going from A to B. But maybe this one's good for walking, I felt I've done a lot more hiking in the last few years than ever before. It sounded good to me when we were walking. Maybe that's the way.
We'll try. Try. So any major trips planned for 2022?
Yes, not as many as we've had in the past. It still feels like places are opening up and it's not as easy as it has been in the past, but there is still trips. There is a tour yet to be announced. I believe we're announcing it on the 16th of May.
All right, you can tell me if you want to. I'll respect it if you don't want to. It's okay.
No, I would if I could. I genuinely don't know the fact. I know that we're going on tour at some point.
All right.
And we're going everywhere.
We'll be on the lookout and hope that there are going to be some German dates. And I'll say thank you, George Ezra, for being here.
Thank you.
And Gold Rush Kid is out now.